Okay. This stuff right here is a fantastic probiotic that you can make from home very, very easily, okay? You've seen that introducing more fermented foods and probiotics into your diet is a very good idea for your gut. And it's so easy to make. Let me walk you through exactly how to make it. Water kefir, kefir, whatever you want to call it. What is the stuff? What does it do? What are the health benefits? What does the science actually tell us? Let's get into it. Water kefir is amazing, amazing stuff. Not to be confused with milk kefir. I know lots of people get confused with exactly what water kefir is. I did a post a while ago that got a lot of traction and people just could not wrap their head around what this thing is. Honestly, I probably had like 50 comments saying, this isn't kefir, it's kombucha. It's like, no, it's not kombucha. Kombucha is a different thing, okay? Water kefir is made with water kefir grains specifically and nothing else, okay? Water kefir grains are effectively a culture of probiotic bacteria, enzymes, other microorganisms, one of them being yeast. What this bacteria does, it basically encases this culture in like a biofilm, okay? I think it's called a polysaccharide biofilm, I could be wrong. And that creates this grain-like structure, okay? That's why water kefir looks like these weird kind of like jelly balls. And basically what goes on is the culture feeds on sugar, okay? So sugar is its primary source of food. In this fermentation process, it converts the sugars and breaks them down, producing carbon dioxide as a byproduct, which is why kefir should be fizzy, lovely, lovely carbonated style drink. Well, at least they should be. These ones aren't quite ready yet. A typical water kefir contains anywhere from 7 to 15 probiotic cultures, or strains I should say. The main ones being lactic acid bacteria, yeast and acetic acid bacteria. Whereas milk kefir, which is a very different thing, I am also making that and I will do a separate video on milk kefir. Milk kefir actually contains anywhere from 50 to 70 probiotic cultures or strains. So it's actually superior in that regard. But obviously for those of you that don't have dairy, don't like dairy, or just don't have it for whatever reason, water kefir can be a really amazing alternative for getting in that probiotic content. And it does taste absolutely amazing, especially when you flavor it well. Water kefir sort of by itself tastes a little bit yeasty, a little bit slightly tangy, slightly sour. It's not the best flavor in the world, but when you flavor it, like I've done here with grapefruit juice and orange juice, and lime juice here, my personal favorite, which is a raspberry lemonade style water kefir, which is the nicest thing in the whole world. You make a little raspberry syrup and then you add lemon juice, and that is literally it. It is the best fizzy drink you'll have, let alone the best water kefir you'll ever have. So yeah, it tastes amazing, it's very easy to do, but what are the health benefits? The first thing you'll be thinking is, of course, this is a gut health drink, and you are along the right kind of lines. But first of all, I want to kind of preface this video by saying that we know surprisingly little about the gut, despite all the mega drastic claims made around gut health on social media. Now, gut health has come a long way in terms of what we know and what we understand about the gut. We have a pretty good idea now of what a bad or unhappy gut looks like, but we don't really have a good idea of what a good gut looks like. There is so much diversity of different gut microbiota in so many different people, all of which seem to be perfectly healthy. So it's very hard to say what an exemplar gut looks like at this stage. But yes, right now it definitely seems like adding plenty of fermented foods into your diet is a good idea for gut health. And actually there's even some research on water kefir grains and their impact on the gut. So what does the research actually tell us? And I'll cite everything in the description. So the main one obviously being gut health. In that, increasing your intake of things like water kefir might help to improve your gut microbiome diversity, which then might translate to a bunch of other health benefits. Peptides and other bioactive compounds and strains of probiotics might help modulate the gut microbiota, meaning that we might increase the amount of beneficial strains of microbiota and potentially reduce the amount of bad strains of bacteria in the gut, which might help with low-grade inflammation in your digestive tract, which might then actually help with intestinal permeability, okay, which might help digestion and might actually elicit other health benefits. So things like improved overall ability to fight inflammation, improved immunity, which is really interesting. We do tend to see that with better gut health, immunity also goes up. In the same way, potentially mood as well. So there's a bunch of potential benefits from getting more of these fermented foods like water kefir into your diet. Now, one thing that you definitely need to be aware of when it comes to drinking more things like water kefir or increasing your fermented food intake is that you won't just drink this stuff one time and it's gonna cure all of your problems and fix your gut health at the snap of your fingers, okay? It doesn't really work like that at all. At least we don't think it does. In fact, more likely you need to increase your intake of fermented foods like water kefir consistently on maybe even a daily basis. Now, what the current research tells us now is that maybe it's a good idea to have fermented foods like water kefir on an empty stomach. So that being said, it could be a really good idea to start your day with a glass of morning kefir, I nearly said, water kefir, and then potentially finishing off your day with it. Bookending the day with water kefir could be a really good idea. And no, it's not a really high sugar drink, okay? The longer you leave it to ferment, the less actual sugars will be there. That's because the bacteria are breaking the sugars down. So you don't need to stress about this being a really sugary drink if you're a sugar-fearing person. I don't know why I always do this. If you are concerned about alcohol content in these is lower than orange juice unless you leave it a long time. If you leave it to ferment like a week, then maybe the alcohol content will creep past like 2%. So yes, this is halal if you let it ferment for 24 to 48 hours. So how do you make water kefir? Now, it's very easy, but there are some kind of tips and tricks and quirks that you do need to be aware of. So how would you actually get the stuff? So you buy it online is the best place to find water kefir. Just go online, have a look for water kefir grains, not to be confused with milk kefir grains, which are very different things. Buy the grains, they often arrive dehydrated. You'll need to rehydrate them. They often have packet instructions on exactly how to do that. Rehydrate your grains, get them in a pot like this, a self-burping jar ideally. And then what you want to do is you need to do your first feed. Now the feeding is basically a sugar solution. I'll put the exact recipe for ratio on screen right here for you. And you add the correct proportion of sugar to the weight of water kefir and the water you use. Right here, I've got something like 3 or 4 tablespoons of water kefir to like a liter of water. And I've then added a proportionate amount of sugar. I also added a pinch of sea salt and also some lemon rind. Adding lemon rind to water kefir can help prevent the kind of buildup of bad bacteria that you don't want. So you get your water, chuck it in, add your sugar, add your salt in those ratios I've already mentioned, and you mix it up, wait till everything's dissolved, add your water kefir, and then just literally leave it at room temperature for like 24 to 48 hours. It will then basically just bubble away. You'll notice bubbles like this streaming up. And what I recommend doing is getting a spoon and just tasting it as you go, okay? Now, when it's sweet, it's probably not done yet, okay? You'll notice that it will start going slightly tangy, slightly sour, a little bit funky. At that point, it's then ready for secondary fermentation, which basically means putting it in a bottle. So you just take that, you pour it out, you won't be able to, this will be slightly off screen, but you pour it into your bottle like that. And there you have like your base, okay? This is some homemade chung. Chung is a Korean technique to make syrup. So this one I actually did with satsumas, and it just smells like, it smells and tastes insane. Really all you need is like that will do it, right? That will do it. You take that off, and then seal it up. I would just give it like a little mix like that. And then you can just take it and put it in a warm location at like room temperature for like a day, maybe 2 days. So it is pretty easy to make. That being said, water kefir definitely has its quirks. It definitely has its things that you need to be aware of to make the most kind of tasty, consistent water kefir you possibly can. The main sort of variables here are temperature, so room temperature works. The warmer the better, generally speaking. The other big one is water quality. Water kefir doesn't seem to like chlorine and other chemicals in water. It might struggle a little bit. You are better off really using like a bottled mineral water if you can. Yes, I totally get that that's a bit of a faff, and if you did want to just use tap water, you definitely can. What I would say is just pour out the amount of water you need and leave it in like an open jar like this overnight, and that chlorine should just evaporate off. So the next day you should be left with like a much better water ready for your kefir grains. Now the third key point with water kefir is minerals, okay? Now they do quite like minerals to function, which is why bottled mineral water can work quite well. In the same way, you can go for an unrefined raw cane sugar, for example, or molasses that actually already has quite a nice mineral content. Another thing you can do is add a tiny bit of sea salt into the water. That's what I personally like doing. Or you could even use bicarbonate of soda. I haven't had much success with bicarbonate of soda or baking soda, but some people do and it works really well for them. Again, this will depend on your water. At the end of the day, if you want to eliminate all those variables, just use bottled mineral water and you should be absolutely fine, okay? I'll provide a ton of resources in the description for places to go for more info on exactly how to make it and all of these quirks if you are struggling. But honestly, like, it is actually a very easy and straightforward process. Those quirks just can be things that people struggle with initially, okay? You would now pour this one out until it's empty, refill it with water, add the right amount of sugar, add a tiny bit of salt, put it back at room temperature, then this will be ready to go again within 24 to 48 hours, right? In the same way, this will be ready to drink within 24 to 48 hours. So when you get a nice cycle going of like having a bottle or a jar this size makes 2 bottles, then you'll have water kefir every single day, and all you need to do is just replenish it every 2 days, and you're just going to constantly cycle over and have unlimited, endless probiotic goodness, okay? So now I hope you understand water kefir a little bit better. I hope you now might have some interest in trying it out from home. It's incredibly enjoyable, incredibly easy to do, and of course it's packed full of potential benefits, okay? So a great thing to include into your life, into your diet, yada, yada, yada. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, hope you found it useful, and as per the usual, stay tuned for next week's video, which might be something more serious. I have no idea yet, we'll see. Anyway, I'm yapping. See you next week, folks.